Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Thursday. We're out here at NASA for the launch of a rocket, and it doesn't happen until like 10:44 tonight, but we're here, 7 a.m., me and Kyle. There's Kyle. Yay! But it's so early, we're not even supposed to be here until 8, and it's 7 now. So we're just waiting in the parking lot of, this is just another part of the building. This is actually the press accreditation building, and we just gotta wait to get our stuff. And I gotta use the bathroom. Sun's just starting to rise and we got our badges, so we're on our way to the press site. We showed up just a little bit too early to get in, and so we came down a road that said Exploration Park. And we came to explore, and it's very foggy. And there's big signs everywhere that say no trespassing. Yay, we're inside NASA property! Oh, did you guys see that? It said 0 days to launch. I hope you guys got to see that. Heading up on the VAB right here, the Vehicle Assembly Building. It looks awesome. The Turn Basin, yeah. That's where we're headed. In case you guys didn't know, it's called the Turn Basin because that's where they bring the solid rocket boosters back in on a boat, and then they turn them around so that they can get them inside the Vehicle Assembly Building. They don't do that anymore because they don't do space shuttles anymore. So there's the Vehicle Assembly Building. It is much larger than it is needed to be now because the Apollo missions were all assembled in here, and they are gigantic. They have to raise the doors all the way, or they had to raise the doors all the way up to here to get the Apollo missions out because they were so big. So this is what's called the Turn Basin, like I was telling you guys about. They would bring the rockets and the boosters and stuff back in here by a boat, and they would go out and pick them up in the ocean and then reuse them so they get them back into the Vehicle Assembly Building. And look at this. This is the countdown clock. I have not been out here to see the new countdown clock. Wow, it's very bright. And those bleachers over there, that's where we're gonna sit and watch the rocket launch because it's like right there. There it is. We got 22 hours. What? I don't think that that's right. All right. Oh, because it's just doing 222. It hasn't even started the countdown yet. Gotcha. This little video right here is kind of explaining what this satellite that they're sending up is going to do. It's called the Magnetosphere Multiscale Mission. Basically, it's going to go up and measure the magnetosphere in its relation to the sun. So it's pretty neat. Totally in the room that has like special spots for media and stuff like that. And they give us a fun swag bag with all kinds of fun stuff in it, like patches and stickers and stuff, and a build your own rocket, it looks like. That's fun. We're going to the news annex, and I thought it would be a much larger building, but it's not. It's very tiny. So we are done with our introductions. It was just a bunch of people. All these people right here are part of the social group, and it was just all them introducing themselves, and now we're getting ready to get on a bus and head out to tour, what did they say? I don't know. I don't remember. We'll find out when we get there. We're on a bus getting ready to go to our first spot.
All right. Our first stop is going to be the Atlas Space Operations Center. It is a controlled facility. As a result of that, we're going to have to ask everyone to leave cell phones and cameras on the bus here. It is the control center for the launch, so we are going to go and see that. But the restrictions there are due to ITAR, which is the International Trafficking of Arms Regulations, which is one of the laws that NASA and the Air Force and everybody else has to go by. So here at Kennedy Space Center, it does overlay with the Merritt Island Wildlife Refuge. So as we're driving along today, we'll point out some of the wildlife that's out here at Kennedy Space Center. We've got gators, there's some wild boar that are running around, there's bald eagles. So other than a few moments around launches when we rumble things around here a little bit, it is a fairly big nature preserve out here. So we are able to peacefully coexist in the buffer zone between what we're doing with launch activities and what's going on with civilization a little further west of here. It's on the far side of the power lines here, rather high up in a tree. It's a very large nest. It's about the size of like a Mini Cooper, roughly speaking. And so it is something where the eagles come back here every year in order to mate and hatch eggs and have little baby eagles. So that is something that happens. And so it's been there for several years at this point, dating back decades. So it's been there for quite a while, but you can see it now. We're passing it right now. It's behind the power lines, up in the tree in the canopy.
Oh yeah, there it is.
It's the very large nest there. That's a bald eagle's nest. It was used as the exterior shot for the offices of the officer in I Dream of Jeannie. This was used as the exterior to that. The center director's office is on the 4th floor, the tall tower that's in the middle of the building. So that's where the main headquarters area is here. The pad that's the furthest over to your left here is pad 41, which has the rocket out on it. We'll be visiting there a little bit later today.
Roll like 15 to 16.
Probably thinks you just bring your own up.
Where we're going to be watching the launch from. That launch right there. Way off in the distance.
So we're going to be all the way down on the very far end there. That way the building doesn't block the rocket.
That's where we just were.
That is the older building. Back when we were using it, it needed refurbishing then. So.
I was unsure whether they're going to refurbish or not. They just built a different one off on the south side of the Cape. So.
This is used by SpaceX now. So it comes from there, rolls down these tracks, all the way down to there. So some of the different things around here is fun, like this camera right here. So they're going to be able to get a nice close-up shot of this rocket going off today. Or tonight, I should say. Pretty cool that it's all strapped down and everything.
All right, so I guess I'll say this a couple times. So the booster section is the goldest section, if you want to call it that color. Anyway, the finger looks like a fingernail section at the bottom is one of the SRNs. There's one on the other side.
Shelters may be required for your protection. Approved launch copy shelters are identified with the brown sign at the main facility entrance. Your cooperation is essential to avoid personal risk or injury.
Just a vulture hanging out, and then there's a giant rocket in the background. So a bunch of people got yelled at for getting too close to the fence, like Kyle. Got to be 2 feet away from it at all times. Still some guys out there on the launch pad, like doing some work. Quite a ways away from launch, so makes sense. A little bit better view of it coming where it comes out of after it's assembled. Rolls down the tracks, goes all the way up to there, and is like ready to launch. Right now, it's ready to go. It's going up at 10:44 tonight.
As we come around the side here, you'll notice all the different tanks that have liquid nitrogen, liquid oxygen in them, and other propellants that are going to be used for the different stages of the rocket and everything here. You'll also see the flame trench as you come by here on the left. That's where all of the smoke and fire will shoot out from the pad. The berm here, the big grassy hill, will disperse that and put it up away from the equipment around here. Tonight, this is not an area you necessarily want to be in. We'll be at a nice safe distance, about 2 miles away.
A whole bunch of manatees over there too. That was crazy. That was the launch pad that we just came from. There it is. Sorry it's so bumpy. We're on a bus. Look at how big this building is. It's huge. Stripes are the size of a highway lane. That's a big one. Oh my goodness. This is just simply amazing. This is where everything got assembled. Shuttles, rockets, Saturn, Apollo, all the big names.
This building was built in the early 60s to support the Apollo and the Saturn V and the effort to get man to the moon. Toward the late 70s is when that mission was complete and the space shuttle program was initiated. So there were modifications done to the building to take it from working on the Saturn V rocket going to the moon to working on a space shuttle rocket to fly to low Earth orbit, to build the space station and do all the things we did with 30 years of the space shuttle. We currently are modifying the building and upgrading the building to support the Space Launch System, which will be the future for the government spaceflight. We have an Apollo Saturn V rocket in one of the high bays in this photograph. We have a space shuttle stacked in one of the high bays in this photo. Then there's some graphical renderings of what the Space Launch System rocket will be. But I do want to point out the low bay is to our right, to my right, and the high bay to the left. I say that because it's only 210 feet tall versus 525 feet tall. Size of the building. And that's another thing. The building is no longer the largest building in the world. It used to be the largest building in the world. I don't know when, but it's been surpassed by other buildings. But it still is the largest single-story building in the world. As you can see from the ground, 525 feet up. That makes it the largest single-story building. What's up, Mike?
Look at that beautiful wiring in there. Part of the collar.
There's multiple diesel engines, electric generators, electric motors, which is like a diesel locomotive. And that's the propel system. There's also the hydraulics. Each corner, cylinders. There's a guy over here beside on the right-hand side. There's 4 cylinders on each corner that are hydraulic that jack. It's called the jacking, equalization, and leveling system, so that all 4 corners are independently adjusted for height. It's a solid platform, but it's like the those cars that people do now, the boom, 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 boom. But this allows the platform to remain level, regardless of the little bit of change going out to the launch pad or going up the launch pad. So the crawler actually transports itself underneath the mobile launch platform, which I think you're going to see one of those out here. Anyway, it goes up under that, lifts it up with the rocket on it, transport it out to the launch pad, and then it gets out of the way for launch. It goes really fast. It goes about 1.5 miles an hour, but with a space shuttle on there, we limited the speed to 0.8 miles an hour. One reason is when you have a rocket that's very tall, you start this thing going. And you get that vibration and you're putting a lot of load on the attach points. So typically with a spaceship on there, it was 0.8. Right,
Underneath the high bay right now.
Kind of cruised out.
So Kyle just asked somebody, and apparently each one of these little posters here is the size of the vehicle when it's fully assembled, but the SLS, once it's in its final configuration, will actually be taller than the Saturn. So it needs to be inside of this giant building.
There's 2 rails that are very high.
Yeah.
There is another crane very similar to this that is on those rails. Except that crane is 325 tons capacity.
Wow.
325. So they can easily pick this crane up. So, and it's much higher.
So this crawler right here, which carries anything, the space shuttle or the SLS, which is the new launch platform that they're going to have, out to the launch pad. What happens is they take the vehicle and they assemble it on, you see this little square right here? That is the bottom of the mobile launch pad. So on top of that, they assemble whatever they're going to be building, nothing right now, but say like the space shuttle, not anymore, or this SLS, which is way up there, that's our next one, is going to be assembled on top of that, all the way up there, right? And then this crawler right here, you can see the big treads on it, comes over, drives over at 0.8 miles an hour across the building here, and it goes underneath that mobile launch platform, lifts up the mobile launch platform, and then rolls out that way to the launch pad. Look at the size of the hook on this crane. That is massive. So here's a closer view of this mobile launch platform. It's a big boy. Okay, here's a better view of the crane that they're going to use to lift this crane into place. It's very large. Here's some of the wiring runways where they took out all of that wire and just replaced it with like 3 or 4 fiber optic cables. I saw this circle on the ground and I asked them, like, what's this circle for? And they said that when they were building the Saturn rockets, they used to have to bring them in here and set them down. But when the floor was built, they didn't run it perfectly level. So there's a little bit of a pitch to it. So when they were setting the rockets down on their stands, they would kind of tilt to the side a little bit. And so they had to make the ground, like they would mill out the concrete so that it was perfectly flat. And then they could set the rocket on it and build up from there. Pretty awesome. But this one's been filled in because people were tripping over it. There's another one over there that is not filled in. This is what we're going up to try to study. I know it's a lot of reading. I hope you guys packed your reading glasses. So when you guys hear us say MMS, that's what we're doing. Wow, that's pretty impressive. Oh, we're here for the television conference, and
5 till 9:30.
we get to sit in students' chairs, and they've got all the big cameras and everything set up. It's gonna be sweet.
Hi, welcome to this MMS NASA Social. We're coming to you from NASA's Kennedy Space Flight Center. I'm Aries Keck from Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland. And we've been down here with about 50 media and social media people doing tours of Kennedy, learning all about the MMS mission. We built the MMS spacecraft up at Goddard. They are 4 identical spacecraft.
Karen Fox with the Heliophysics team at NASA Goddard. I'm going to define 4 things: MMS, heliophysics, plasma, and magnetic reconnection. So for starters, MMS, the magnetospheric multi-scale mission. The magnetosphere is a giant bubble of magnetic fields around Earth. Multi-scale just means lots of different scales, big scales, small scales. And MMS will be studying the magnetosphere at a wide variety of scales, and will be going down to smaller scales than have ever been done before, and at speeds faster than have ever been done before. Heliophysics. Helio, sun, physics. So, you know we've got something to do with the sun here. We've got solar physics is absolutely part of heliophysics, but the sun actually has influence over a much larger region. The sun is constantly spewing out something called a solar wind. All these solar particles, they go out way past the planets. And there they encounter the rest of the stuff, the rest of the universe. And there's a boundary there. That entire gigantic bubble around the sun is called the heliosphere, and heliophysics studies the way the sun interacts with space all the way out to that very edge, and of course, how it interacts with near-Earth space. So the sun-Earth connection is a key part of heliophysics. Plasma. Plasma is a good one. Plasma is what dominates the rest of the universe. It is something we don't experience regularly on Earth, but it is truly what fills the universe. It is what is in space. It is what makes stars. And what's most important for us right now, we're going to be talking about it in detail very soon, but what's most important for starters is that it travels with magnetic fields. So there are magnetic phenomena going on inside plasma all the time. That if we're going to understand the universe, if we're going to understand near-Earth space, we need to understand. Fourth and final, magnetic reconnection. So, MMS is really going to be focusing on this particular magnetic phenomenon. What happens is, when magnetic field lines, you know, they point from south to north. We've seen batteries, or a lot of ways in which you see that on Earth. You've got a field line pointing this way, and a field line pointing the opposite way. When they come together, everything realigns. Sometimes there are huge explosions. Always, there is a release of energy. Particles go zooming off into all direction. And this phenomenon powers stuff all over the universe, which we will be discussing in great detail today. But so that's the basic. Opposite field lines come together. They get too close, and they have to completely realign. That is magnetic reconnection.
We have this great fleet of spacecraft studying all the phenomena all around in our heliosphere, but yet a fundamental part of the physics we don't know yet. We have a word, we put a little, what we call a black box around it. We say, okay, really interesting things happen in that black box, and we're going to study everything else around it. Well, now we're going into that black box.
For you guys, when do you expect that first really kind of moment of excitement when you start going to, get that data in? Tomorrow.
But in reality, I mean, there's a long period of time after launch where everybody's trying to get to and calibrate the instruments, and that's going to be several months, 6 months long before that's done. And then the data will be coming in. Right? So it's a matter of months before we have science quality data.
Some of you may remember that in the summer of 2012, the Voyager 1 spacecraft crossed the heliopause. And there was a lot of fishy stuff that happened at that time. A lot of stuff was bouncing up and down, and the present interpretation of what was going on was that there was a magnetic reconnection going on at the heliopause, and Voyager passed through those regions. Well, it means that that nice, perfect interface that we thought we knew about, the heliopause, was not quite so perfect because it was all broken up because there was magnetic reconnection going on. Now, in some sense, the heliopause acts like a bit of a shield for some of those cosmic rays, and they get diverted around. But the magnetic field, if it reconnects, breaks things up, and that allows stuff to leak through. So we're still trying to understand how do galactic cosmic rays actually get through the heliopause. So we really want to know what that heliopause is. There are lots of explosions in the universe. They're not all produced by magnetic reconnection. Clearly, gravity plays a major role. When stars burn out, they collapse, a lot of explosions like that. But there are regions with extremely intense magnetic fields throughout the universe. An example is when you have a star collapsing, it can go down and form a neutron star, and there's certain neutron stars called magnetars, which have magnetic fields which are like 10 to the 15 power Gauss. Now remember that the Earth's magnetic field is about a half a Gauss on the surface. These magnetars have fields of 10 to the 15 Gauss. That's a pretty intense field. And these things have some flares, just like on the sun. And sometimes we see them. There was a flare a few years back from a magnetar which produced an energy, I think it was like 1/5 of a second long, and it produced the output of energy equivalent to the sun emitting its power for, I think it was like 200 million years. That is a lot of energy coming out, and it's from these intense magnetic fields. Another example is around black holes, and the way this happens, you've got a black hole which could be extremely large, 1,000,000 times the mass of the sun, and those black holes accrete matter, and that means that matter falls into these black holes. It starts falling in and it starts spinning around the black hole. So this black hole has got what's called an accretion disk spinning around. That accretion disk is very turbulent and it produces magnetic field. And so as it falls in towards the black hole, it spins that magnetic field up, and you can imagine wrapping and wrapping that field over and over again until that field becomes very powerful. And then it shoots out like a spring being released, and it forms these jets. And these jets can go huge distances, 100 light years. Now, in astrophysics, astrophysicists never really were that enthusiastic about magnetic reconnection, believe it or not, because they were convinced that shock waves were producing most of the energetic particles. Okay, so what I want to do is show you what really changed their minds about all this. So there's a picture of the Crab Nebula. This comes from a collapsed star, and it was seen by astronomers on Earth way back in 1024 or something like that. So here you're seeing the magnetic field wrapped around that Crab Nebula. It's now a pulsar, which means it pulses out. And you can see the jets forming north and south. And what they saw from the crab was this very powerful flare. And this happened like in one day. And it was very energetic gamma rays. And there was just no way in the world that a shock could do that. And so the astrophysicists were surprised. And now everybody is working like mad on magnetic reconnection to try to figure out how this crab flare happened and how to explain those very energetic particles.
When you're watching a launch, usually within 10 miles of the actual launch pad, usually you'll feel a vibration somewhere. There's either a piece of clothing that'll vibrate a little bit. You don't want to pick up on that. If you're near one of the parking lots on KSC, almost always there's a car alarm that goes off, which is just satisfying.
One of the big things we're working on is we're actually transforming the Kennedy Space Center to launch the next generation of human-rated vehicles that's going to take us out beyond low Earth orbit. And so I'm not sure how many of you have heard about SLS and Orion, but what the program that I work for is doing is we're actually revamping the entire Space Center here to get ready for this next most powerful rocket we've ever built to really launch our astronauts to that next point, much further into space than we've ever gone before.
I've been working on magnetic reconnection for 30 years, and I'm excited to see whether a lot of the prediction we've been trying to make are going to hold up.
So I've been trying to save the battery for the launch, but this battery is like almost dead. So I think we're going to stop recording until we come back for the launch. We're going to go out to dinner and stuff like that right now. We were walking up to film how much time is left on the countdown clock, and I think we walked into Fox 35's like live remote. So yeah, you might have seen us on Fox 35 like walking up to film the countdown clock. It's only 4.5 hours, but a little bit more because there's like a half an hour hold that happens at like 7 minutes or something like that. It's gonna go up at 10:44 tonight for us. So if you guys look on the side of the road here, there's a bunch of like water here, and I've already seen a bunch of alligators, and I'd like to try to point them out to you, but it's gonna be hard because we're moving so quickly. There was one right there. There was one right there. And I wanted to show you guys, we're gonna eat at Shiloh's here, and look at that. There's the VAB way off in the distance over there, across the river. We're gonna be much closer than this, but somewhere, maybe right there, is the launch pad that we're gonna go see. see it up there still. That's pretty crazy that we can still see it. Yay! No more rocket. I really wish you guys could have been here to see it in person, because I know this camera didn't hold focus very well, but I wonder how the GoPro held up. I'm in the NASA press site now. That was simply amazing. I wish that we had cameras nowadays that could convey what I saw to you guys, because it was way more intense in person than it was for you guys on the camera. And I wish I could have shown you that, because it was awesome. By the way, this is the press building for NASA. It's kind of awesome. A nice mock-up of the International Space Station. Man, oh man, what a long day. Left the house this morning at 6 a.m. It is now 12:30. I need to go to bed because I got to get up at 4. So that'll be a nice like 3.5 hours. It's like a nap. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. But now it's time to pay the price.